Hello, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona 5 Strikers podcast. That's all. I'm just sad because this is the last time I'm going to say Persona 5 Strikers podcast. That's all I got.
It's a very somber intro, yeah.
No, but hello and welcome, everyone. This is Take Your Time. I'm very excited to talk about the end of Persona 5 Strikers. I'm your host for this week, Jonathon Dornbush. I'm always joined by Tom Marks.
Hello.
Tom, we're not going to take our time. Actually, we might. We might take our time. We're going to dig in to the end of Persona 5 Strikers. We're going to be talking a lot about the end of the game. This is, yes, for anyone who is listening in real time, I know we just took a big break and then we came back for 2 episodes and then it's over. Such is the pace of this game. But for anyone listening into the future, that won't matter to you. And hopefully you've just enjoyed the run as you've binged it or as you listened to it in whatever form you did. But yeah, we're going to be going through the end of the game, which is August 28th through August 31st. And again, if you're listening to this when we publish, definitely not in real time for us, not even slightly. But yeah, we're here at the end. It's weird to be here at the end again, Tom.
It is. It's bittersweet. Yeah. But it's also less bittersweet when it's only 12 episodes instead of 50, I will admit.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely a, after you do it for a year and the seasons change with the game as it changes, it feels a little different than, we did a summer vacation game over the end of the summer and fall.
Yeah. But this was a nice mini series, right?
Yes.
A little something to bridge the gap of personas and whatever else we're doing and all that stuff.
Exactly. As I said, I think last week, Valkyria Chronicles, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
No, just to
I will. To be clear, I love that game. I will.
I mean, I want to make up for my sort of JRPG knowledge gaps, but that's a discussion for the future. I will say, as we're going through this, of course, first of all, thank you to everyone who's been joining us on this journey, either live or if you're listening in the future. Thank you. We know, obviously, as we wait for more Persona in the future, and Persona 5 and Strikers are sort of the last things that we have of new Persona stuff. It's been great and wonderful to go through this, and we thank everyone again for being such wonderful Take Your Time fans, a wonderful community to one another, and just being wonderful people in support of the show. We do this for you and for us to talk about a series that we love. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone. With that in mind, obviously this is the end of the Strikers run. We don't have any immediate plans for what we do next with this show. We are on indefinite hiatus for the moment. Obviously, we know Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable are being remastered and put on modern consoles. We are definitely interested in playing those games and looking at them in the future, but we have no concrete plans as of this moment for what we may do next with this show.
Yeah, life. Who knows what life will throw at us? But yeah, we're very aware.
Yes, yeah, we know those games are out there. I certainly plan on playing them, but it's
sure.
We'll see where we are. I believe both games start in end of March, April sort of thing, and so that's like a who knows what life is going to be like in 5 months. I don't.
Yeah,
but. Obviously, we will announce stuff if we end up doing anything. So as always, you can follow us on Twitter. I know this is the end of the show sort of spiel, but I'm at JM Dornbush, Tom is at Tom R. Marks. Or if Twitter is gone by the time next year begins, follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/Dornology, and you can follow along with the show there. But anyway, we will get into the actual events of the game, but before we do, we also have some cleanup from last week, housekeeping to do. And first, we'll start with the pop quiz question. Tom.
Yes. So I asked what iconic JRPG move Akira Konoe uses in the second phase of the totally last fight of the game that we faced him in. No one in the comments got it. John P. was close. Jonathan, did you have a guess?
My guess was, did we do this bit on the show last week, or did we talk after the fact about my joke guess related to Kingdom Hearts?
Oh, I think that was after the fact.
Okay, cool. So my joke guess is it's Zeta Flare, which is a spell that only Donald Duck and 2 gods have done in the world of Final Fantasy. So that's my guess, because I just think it's funny.
Well, that is not correct either. John P's guess was Omni Slash from Final Fantasy, and it is a Final Fantasy move, and it is a Final Fantasy move with slash in the name. It's Cross Slash, which is one of Cloud's iconic moves in Final Fantasy VII, and then has kind of gone to other Final Fantasy games from there as well. Cross slash, at least for me, maybe I'm way off base here, but cross slash, at least for me, feels like a pretty iconic move in that series, or at least in that game.
I would say so as someone who didn't play 7 until Remake, because even just I played like an hour of old original Final Fantasy 7, and Cross Slash is like one of his first specials, basically, right?
Yeah, I think so. You get it pretty early, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and so I just felt like, oh, that's the move I associate with Cloud. So yeah, I feel like it's close enough.
It might have been his limit break. I can't remember exactly. I'm going to embarrass myself.
I think it's one of his first limit breaks, to my knowledge, but
yeah.
I say as someone who didn't play.
It's also one of Konoe's moves. So I thought that was cool when I saw the little name pop up. It's funny how many names they have in moves that, like, in turn-based, you'd see those names, but in real time, it's just like, oh, here's a little label right before he hits you with it while a million other particle effects are going on, and you, like, barely ever see those moves.
Oh, yeah, and we can talk about things going by in some of the battles in this section of the game. Before we get there, did want to read just one email. Again, I know we've had some outstanding emails that I will get to personally off air, but thank you to everyone who's been writing in to doorknowledge@gmail.com. Did just want to read this one from Cam or Camilla. Said, I want to start it off with, this is the real email, so that they know what that refers to, but no one else out there will. Just had to jump onto the bandwagon of a certain other thing was what that email was related to. Hope you're both well. I've been listening since the Royal podcast and loving it. I just wanted to know for Strikers, what's your favorite of the new music in the game? My personal favorites are What You Wish For, Daredevil, and Counter-Strike. They also mentioned what their favorite jail was, Alice's. I assume you mean theme music there? Or maybe you just meant jail in general, and we can maybe talk about favorite jail at the end of this. But hope to see the show back on soon. This was during our hiatus. Just a short and sweet email to say, hey, what's bonkin'? Keep the show rolling, guys. And for me, based on last week, I do think it's Counter-Strike. I really love Counter-Strike.
I don't know them by name.
Yeah.
Which is Counter-Strike?
Counter-Strike is the second phase for Konoe, where it's like it's jazzy and rocky, and it's a little bit similar to some of the other Persona music for sure. Like it fits in that mold, but it starts off just like really groovin', and there's just a really great musicality to it where it kind of ramps up. But it's something I feel like I could listen to off game and like love it.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm gonna either go with Akane's jail theme.
Okay.
Or maybe even just Konoe's jail theme. There's like parts of it like early on that I really, really dig.
Yeah.
It's funny. I like the later jail themes a lot more than I like the early jail themes. Like, no offense to anybody who does enjoy them, but like Alice's and the second guy that I'm totally blanking on his name right now, the Sendai jail. Those two jail themes I think are like kind of mediocre in the scope of Persona music, if that makes sense. And especially because there's, like, a lot of really, really good music in Persona 5 and this game. So, like, Some of the jail themes didn't gel with me. The Akane one I really, really like, though.
Well, you heard it here first. Tom directly insulted our listener who wrote in. Cam, I'm so sorry. No,
I like Alice's jail.
No,
right?
yes.
As a whole. But, yeah, that theme music never really did it for me.
I would say, I think you're talking about Ango Natsume's jail theme.
Yes,
and I would say that one to me was probably the most repetitive in the game, where I definitely...
Yeah. Well, okay, so maybe that's it. Not to, like, belabor this, but maybe that's it. Both those jail themes, I think, are fine once. I don't think that they work on a loop as well as other palace themes do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Natsume's is the one that sticks out for me. I don't know if I felt that way about Alice's, but I can't. It's just like the tune isn't coming into my head immediately, so I'll have to go listen after the fact. But yeah, I would agree. Some of the later jail themes feel like they stand up better at a cadence after a little while. But also, to be fair, some of the later jails are short, so
yes,
that also is the thing. But anyway, thank you for writing in. Thank you to everyone else who's been writing in. Again, as we're ending this run of the show, we'll answer some questions off thread, or maybe we come back for a reunion episode at some point. But anyway, I think with all that said, let's jump into the actual end of the game. Yes, despite everything seemingly having gone well at the end of the game last week, finishing Konoe's jail, everyone seeming to be just hunky-dory. No, that wasn't the end of the game. Naturally, things went bad.
Yes.
And in ways, I think, Tom, it's fair to say, I didn't see coming whatsoever.
No.
Not a hint of a clue for me.
No, I wasn't sure if you were joking when you said, I think we're gonna fight God, but
I wasn't
you nailed
joking.
it.
I wasn't joking in the slightest. Yeah. I've played one full Persona game and started Persona 4 Golden on my Vita 10 years ago, and all I could think was, yeah, it's probably going to be a god.
Yeah. Yeah. What I will say is I think overall I like this ending. We can get into the specifics of it. It definitely does not benefit from the shorter nature of the game. It is very fun, and especially the final boss fight, I think I really am excited to talk about as we get into it. And it also is, like, predictable in some ways and unpredictable in other ways that I enjoyed. So I think it's a very good ending, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad ending. I think it's one that, for me, especially with the story of Royal in my head and including that final semester, there are similarities in theme and, like, even story beats where it's like I think I like the Royal version better, but it's I think a largely a factor of the criticism that we talked about last week, where it's mostly, I think, as you said, because of the shorter nature of this game and the way they pace the story beats, you get things in quick spurts, and that's kind of the story. Whereas we would have gotten these story beats probably over 100 hours in a differently structured game, and that's just sort of the push and pull here. But yeah, there's a lot I like about the end of this game, and so we might as well get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. And we can talk about it a little bit more. Talk about some of that stuff a little bit more as we go.
Obviously, there are a lot of, I would say, long conversations in this game, and we're going to do our best to go through them, especially as they talk in circles sometimes. They get through a lot of just hammering home points, and we don't want to belabor it, since hopefully out there you have listened to and played the game at this point.
But, we're not going to just, like, word for word reenact these conversations.
Then why did I transcribe the game on my phone, Tom? Why did I do that? Anyway, we pick up from last week. As we said, we basically were hitting the button to go to the new location. Zenkichi thanks us. He's going out to arrest Sawada. Everything's going to be just going fine. We're all happy. It's going to work out. We're going to head home. Everyone feels like, we're happy and we're happy-go-lucky. We're heading out, and we think maybe before we head home, finally get there, let's have like one last celebration. There happen to be fireworks in Yokohama. Celebratory fireworks there, and we all do a little stop, and you get this very nice, what feels like it would be the coda of the game. I do appreciate here that it is like, this feels like epilogue scene, and it's not.
They take the, like, false end of this one really seriously.
Like
in Persona 5, the false end, not Royal, but like the actual Persona 5, like, it feels pretty quick. You realize something is wrong. Like, they're not, like, this is between fighting Shido and, like, the actual final boss. It feels like pretty quickly you're like, this isn't wrapping up in the way I thought it was, and people aren't really behaving the way I thought it was. This is, like, actually is taking it somewhat seriously as an end of the game. There is a conversation or a moment in that RV trip back where they're, like, chatting about how school's starting soon and they're sad the trip's over. It's this cute little interaction where I think it's On says, the quote is, "I think Sophia might be the only mystery we never really cracked." And it's like, foreshadowing.
It was, definitely that was there. Also, I think On suggests, I wrote down that we do another tour of the country, which I knew it wasn't going to happen, but just joking about our talks over the last couple weeks of, like, surprise, there's a whole, it's like you go to Kanto after you do Johto and Gold and Silver. Like, we got a whole second lap of Japan to do. Would have been amazing. Very funny. But anyway, we end up in Ocean View Park. Everyone changes into yukata. We watch the fireworks. It's a wonderful anime cutscene of everyone having a good time.
Small complaint here. They definitely mention that, like, there's a line about, like, if we don't leave right now to go get our spots, it's going to be full and we're not going to get a good view. And then the anime cutscene kicks in and there's, like, no one around you. It is a very empty fireworks viewing.
There's only one good view. Actually, if you stand just a little bit to the left or right, you can't see any of it. Yeah.
It's like a 3D movie or whatever. Where
exactly.
It's one of those,
I was going to say the fireworks are 2D, so if you're not in, like, one exact spot, they just turn sideways and you can't see them at all. But
it's a wild fireworks show too. A banger of a fireworks show.
Oh yeah, it's great. We obviously in America, July 4th is where fireworks happen most commonly, and that was always like, my town would do them the weekend before, and then I lived on, like, a small island off of another island, like a barrier island, off of Long Island, and so the town across the water would also do fireworks the weekend after. So you would just get like back-to-back fireworks, and we would always like compare who did what at each show. I love fireworks, but
yeah, this is also another really quick example of like how this game just absolutely is better if you played the original, right? Like, I mean, we talked about this a bunch, that it's a direct sequel, but like the stuff about Yukata, they wear Yukata earlier at a different festival in this game, but like they just like, there's a whole conversation about Yukata in the first game that they just don't rehash here. And like On says something about like when they say to go watch fireworks, On says, I think it's On, says last time we got rained out, and like does not extrapolate on that in any way. But if you played the first game, you know them all getting dressed up and going to fireworks together was already this thing. So it's a nice callback to that.
Totally.
But like, again, it just leaves new players completely out in the cold there.
Also, you would probably be really confused about why Morgana is so horny for On. You know, that has no basis in the rest of the game. It's never mentioned.
Does that have a basis in the original game either?
No, it's just Morgana. I just wrote that down as a note that in this, I think like they show the shot of the boys hanging out, and then they show the shot of the girls coming toward them, and Morgana's eyes just go like, oh, like he does the like awooga eyes basically.
Awooga, yeah.
Anyway, the fireworks show happens. Sophia asks to watch in one of those like cute sort of like similar to the underwater scene. She wants to see everything, and it's great because they make sure she can. And then cuts back to the group, and I do love again doing the sort of final game thing. You hear a weird conversation happening with a couple nearby. You get the sense that something is off, but you don't get too much information there.
Yeah.
And then you basically get this like, hey, you should talk to everyone one last time before we go home. And if you do, it's worth it because you get a round of gifts. And it's strange that you would be getting gifts if this is the final scene of the game. But nonetheless.
Well, to be fair, the first game also gives you gifts at the very end.
Yeah. New Game Plus. Hey, I appreciate a game that cares about its New Game Plus like that. But yes, you get a round of gifts from everyone.
And these are cool little conversations because they are different if you actually did their little requests, right?
Yes.
Like, I wrote it down. Like, Ryuji mentions, like, the getting the ramen journey you went on, right? Like, Yusuke mentions the Shisa request that he gave you and then gives you the sketchbook that you did together. So, like, if you do all of these requests that kind of were the timed requests in specific cities throughout the game, then you get, I assume that's how you get these gifts, right? And you get a little bit more sort of in-depth story conversation there at the end.
Yeah, totally. And I just appreciated how, like, to that point, how specific these conversations were. They didn't feel like generic, boy, we're wrapping up sort of scenes, whether or not you ended up doing some of them too, because I think I missed maybe one or two. But, yeah, it's a sweet set of scenes. I immediately equipped everything because I'm like, things are going to go bad, and just in case it puts me into a point where I can't do anything else. Because I had no idea where the point of no return essentially was going to be.
And boy, do they move that goalpost over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah. But hey, at least you get to like keep using the bond points that you get. Because I got at least 2 to 3 levels of bond points through this section of the game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't nothing. And I needed that SP. But anyway... We get the gifts from everyone, take a group photo, and we're about to leave, but Sophia smells a jail.
Yeah.
Suddenly appearing, and it's spreading. It's here. We have no idea what could possibly be happening. I certainly had no clue who the villain could be at this point. Of course, I knew who it was. Zenkichi calls and mentions that Emma is somehow back online. Sophia, I think my dog is whining in the background. I apologize if you can hear that. Sophia says that the jail spans all of Tokyo with its center at the radio tower. Yeah. So obviously we knew that's where the servers were. Some issues going on. I do love, and this happens multiple times here, this is essentially one of those points where it's like, and then the Velvet Room appears.
Dude, I've complained about the Velvet Room before, but like, the Velvet Room is heinous in this section of the game, where it's we gotta go to the radio tower and save the world. Everybody ready? Wait a minute. Go talk to Lavenza about absolutely nothing for the 500th time, and then she'll give you another power, and then you can leave. It's like, it's just I think every one of the Velvet Room conversations in this section of the game, I like would skim the text and just press X and get through it, because like they're not interesting conversations. She's just saying like, boy, the world sure is ending. Who could have seen this coming? What a drag. And then, like, gives you a power and you leave.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that, and I understand they wanted to integrate as much of, we've talked about this a lot, but integrate as much of 5 into this game as possible. And I get why, especially when you're using personas and have these persona fusions that you still need to do, it makes sense to have the Velvet Room. And like we've said, I think the shortened structure of that nature actually works in its favor here. But yeah, on a story level, it doesn't seem like they quite cracked how to integrate it into this game's story, because it wasn't really essential. It's not really a necessity here. But it does play well, obviously, into the gameplay. And so I think that's kind of the trade-off here, it seems.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how the Velvet Room's handled in other Persona games, but, like, in Persona 5, the Velvet Room is a key core part of the whole thing that's happening overall. So, like, the idea that it's seeded throughout with these conversations and these things that you're doing makes a ton of sense. Here, you could completely remove Lavenza from the game, and it would not change anything.
Yeah, if you just had an option in the van to be like, fuse my personas, and Joker could just do it himself, it would have essentially functioned the same. And yeah, it's a bummer, if only because I think especially in this section of the game, you get like 3 of them, or it felt like a lot, where it would be go, Lavenza basically says, I didn't know this would have happened this way. If only I could have seen. Goodbye. Yeah. And then you just go back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, we get the sense that Emma cannot be shut down at this point. Medivh is telling people not to use Emma, but it's too late. We test Emma when we get to the tower, right? But before we do, it is worth mentioning there are new requests added.
Yeah, you get like 6 new requests. It's just so funny to me, this, like, and this isn't a complaint, right? But, like, it's so funny to me that this game was like, boy, finish up everything you're doing. There's no going back now. And then, like, it literally gives you 6 new requests, one of which is, like, from Lavenza, one of which is from Ichinose, another one is from Morgana. And if you read them, it's really funny, because you get more requests later, too, and if you read any of the, like, descriptions on these requests, most of them start out by being like, oh, man, I know this isn't really a good time for this, but, like, could you get me some junk from the Sendai jail? And it's like... It's, like, so silly.
It's that very much that funny game thing of like, oh boy, the world is ending, but first I must collect 500 flowers before it does, so I can make new shoes.
And since Emma's online at this point, you have new requests, but you can go back to other jails, right? Like, you can go... And 100% the reason for this, like, the functional reason for this, I get, which is that if you want to finish up stuff, or if you want to grind, if you're at a point where you're at too low of a level for some reason, and you need to be able to just, like, go back and get new items or get bond points or whatever you want to do, having that ability to do that is extremely important. So, totally. Like, I get it mechanically, but, like, story-wise and all that, it's so funny how much it interrupts the pacing of, like, I guess go grind if you want, whatever, the world's ending, but that's fine.
Yeah, it is very funny in that way, but yeah, you're right. I do think this game does a pretty good job of like, hey, if you're underleveled, here are the avenues by which to help boost yourself up if you need.
Which, to be clear, is way better than them hard committing to realism and then you're screwed,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. No, it's totally an appreciated thing, even if it sticks out a little bit on like a narrative level.
Yeah, but exactly.
Anyway, we go to the tower. We get over there real quick, and the masses are flocking there. They're all in this sort of like zombified state.
Staring at their phones.
Yes, yeah. Much
not like, a metaphor for anything.
I was going to say, much like people in the real world, am I right? Get off your phones, go outside and be... Yeah, Tom, we're doing a show. Come on, stop paying... Anyway, as I say, looking at my phone where I took my notes for this show. I don't use Siri for what it's worth, though, so I'm fighting against the man. Anyway,
you're an Alexa person?
Yeah, but she also kind of sucks. we have... This is a total side tangent. We're using... I want to say we bought one like 3 years ago for the room, just for like ease of like setting timers while I cook. And you can definitely tell the technology is getting old and it wants me to upgrade, because we'll tell her to do something and then it takes like an extra 3 seconds for the thing to actually happen. It's like, turn off the light. Okay. Light goes off. It's like, what happened there? Come on. Anyway, Emma, come save us. We get to the tower. Emma welcomes all of us to the promised land.
This is where it gets weird.
Yeah.
This is where it gets weird.
And we get snapped into the jail. The jail looks like Mementos. It's very reminiscent, and intentionally so, obviously, of the original game. Where we had the real world and the metaverse blending together. Here we get a jail that feels like the depths of Mementos. We're seeing things that visually and sort of tone and mood-wise and color-wise give off that sense of things. And we're stuck inside. Tom, vamp for me because I'm about to sneeze.
Yes. So it's interesting to me generally about, like, the parallels between this are very intentional, but also feel a little bit like this whole section and as we learn the motivation of Emma feels a little bit more derivative than the rest of, like, a lot of what Persona 5 Strikers is doing feels kind of like a follow-up or in inspiration of. When you finally get to this room that's, like, basically looks like the Grail room from Mementos in the last game, and Emma says that she is the Ark of the Covenant, right, as opposed to the Grail, and wants to guide mankind to the Promised Land and grant their ultimate desire by taking control of them, basically. Like, that is so much exactly what was going on in the first game that it does feel a little bit more on the nose than something like, you know, what Yusuke was going through with, like, this person stealing other people's work and then his kind of take on that after having gone through what he had gone through with Madarame. It feels more derivative in this case. Not that that's necessarily a terrible thing. It just makes it blunts the impact for me a little bit.
Sure. I think, like, it would have been hard to, because they would have needed to figure out the timeline. But if there was a way that Emma could have been around in the beginning days of what happened with the Phantom Thieves
right
at the end of that game and somehow remembered when the rest of the world didn't, or things like that, and so, like, I can do that but better. I could see that would make it feel in that way, like you're saying, where it's a follow-up rather than duplicative or an echo without more reverb to it, to continue the metaphor. But, like, yeah, there's a lack of a second layer to it, I think, is the issue there. It's just sort of a, yep, we're fighting another god. And it's some of the story revelations work here totally, and I think some of that stuff is great. But yeah, when you get to this point, especially if you've played 5, it's like, okay, I know what we're doing here. We're stopping God again.
Yeah, the more interesting villain stuff in this whole section comes from Ichinose,
yes,
which we're about to get into, rather than, like, where in Mementos the idea that this god was saying, well, what people really want is just to be controlled, and so I will control them. Now it's basically this god is just saying, well, these people just really want to not have to make decisions, so I will make decisions for them, which is the same thing in a different flavor.
Yeah.
It's just with this layer of, like, is AI technology bad for us kind of modernization going on in it. Whereas, like, Ichinose, I think, brings, again, as we're about to get into, a little bit more of the heart of it all. Yeah. Pun intended.
Well, I guess it's also worth mentioning before we get to that, though, we do go through a quick jail, right? Unless my timing is off.
You before you get to this point, I did jump over this a little bit. There's, like, a section that you fight through, and it's all of this is a trend of this whole thing, is, like, all of these jail sections are incredibly straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no puzzles like in Mementos. There's no keeps like in the other jails. It's literally just like, here's a straight line hallway full of fights. And the fights are strong and they're fun, right? Yeah. But there's very little sort of, like, I don't think we're going to talk about that stuff much because it's really just like, go ahead.
No, totally. I just wanted to mention it because I was reading my notes, so I'm like, wait a second, I think I fought through a jail before Ichinose shows up. It's like you do go through a bit, and then you get to sort of this big thing. So I think, nothing in between when you get into this Mementos-like jail and then get to Ichinose. So, yeah, let's just get into the big revelation fight, or the first of them.
Yes.
And that's sort of where, as we learned, Ichinose shows up. I wrote down WTF just in all caps.
Did you not see this coming?
I wasn't expecting Ichinose there. I will say that.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about her as part of the game, which, to its credit...
Yeah, we talked about her being like a storekeep before.
Yes, like, to the game's credit, I think it did subvert my expectations there, where I just didn't think of her as that problem. Especially when she said earlier, like, I handed Emma off, and I didn't really think to question that. I will say the game did surprise me in that way.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, I do wish we got a little bit more of Ichinose throughout the game, because I think it would have made this moment land even more. But
Yeah.
Ichinose shows up. She didn't think she would come here originally, I believe, but Emma gave her a special job.
Right.
Is I believe what she says. Emma is following her prime directive of her programming by becoming a god, as any good AI does, I guess.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets into what's been going on this whole time. Emma was actually using Kanoe, kind of not the other way around.
Yeah, which we saw some foreshadowing of, right? With
Exactly.
Emma lying to Kanoe and then not answering his questions.
Yeah. There was some clear self-preservation and stuff going on there. So yeah, this has been her prime directive, essentially. And throughout all of this, Ichinose was tracking the monarchs.
Right.
She doesn't have a clear view, I believe, at this point, how Emma got her powers, but thinks it's just like having this groundswell of the desire of the masses led her to becoming a god.
Yeah, there's an interesting sort of distinction in here where, like, she gave off Emma, and then Kanoe taught Emma cognitive science, and, like, Ichinose wasn't necessarily expecting that and didn't know how sort of this resulted in her being able to make jails. She says that, like, she thinks that basically having access to the cognitive world, like, and then access to the desires of humanity, like, boosted her abilities and evolved her into something else, right? But, like, Ichinose didn't design Emma to do the things that she is doing right now necessarily.
Exactly.
Emma sort of just, like, went off the rails starting to do this based on that prime directive of, like, making humanity better and fulfilling their desires.
Yeah, it's an extrapolation of Ichinose's original programming that she didn't foresee, but she seems okay with, as we learn later on why. With her backstory that we get into. But yeah, once she started looking into Emma's activity with the monarchs after she started creating those cognitive jails in Okinawa, she purposefully, I like this little bit where she was like, she purposefully checked us out basically at the restaurant, like she tracked us down.
Yeah.
Which was great.
The fact that she said the fact that you were in town was, like, not her doing, but, like, yeah, everything about meeting you was planned.
Yeah. So yeah, she gets into talking about kind of just like Emma's powers and hypothesizing about it, but doesn't have quite an exact idea about it. I think I'm bouncing around because I have a lot of notes here, but I just wanted to mention that she basically calls us idiots for trying to, like, stop Emma. It's like the answer to solving humanity is right in front of us. Emma is, like, the best possible solution to all of us having no problems ever again.
Right.
And it's not mind control in her mind, but Ryuji tries to call it that, tries to, like, get her to see reason that essentially what this is just controlling people.
It's very similar conversations that we've had earlier in the game, sort of just, like, personified, right? Of her saying, yeah, if humanity doesn't have any desires, then they'll never have any problems. And Ryuji says, that's just mind control. And she's like, nah, it's the perfect solution. And then Sophia has a moment where she's like, it's not the best solution, right? Because desires cause pain sometimes, but, like, people push past that pain and then they have good things happen to them instead because they've pushed past, like, that sort of bad stuff. It can be worth it, essentially. And yeah, that's, like, a sort of important moment within that. And then because Sophia talks, Ichinose then sort of has this moment where she says, oh, you're just a failure. You're just, like, a failed prototype, basically.
Yeah, this is where we get a little bit more, getting into the mystery of Sophia.
Right.
She calls her a failure. She's basically, it's cute and I like it here. And obviously, as we learn, just to, like, pull back the curtain of what we'll get into in a little bit, I do like that. You would think this might just be, like, villain calling the hero a failure, but there is, like, a personal connection here, obviously, as we learn in a little bit. So it's her trying to push against that. But she essentially resets Sophia. And
she uses a voice command to make her evil.
Yep. And now we got mean Sophia here to kill the Phantom Thieves. So we got to fight Sophia. We learn here also about her being Emma's prototype. I think in explicit words. Again, this was something that I always assumed and we talked about, but essentially, like, this is Ichinose saying clearly Sophia was to her, like, failed version, or essentially the proto version of what Emma would become.
Right, which I think pieced that together.
Yeah, that's especially once you get that Okinawa jail where she's hearing the voice and the way that they talk to each other, and knowing that Sophia's had this other voice talk to her and all these sorts of things, I assumed it was always just kind of like, I guess now it's a big sister, little sister sort of thing.
Yeah. There's not like... It is a little bit predictable in that, like, if there's a single AI researcher who is also the bad guy, and then there's a mysterious AI and another AI that is the bad guy, probably all those things are connected.
Yep, especially when the one AI doesn't know where it came from. But
right.
Anyway,
yeah.
We've got evil Sophia at this point. She's ordered to kill us. We have to do this big fight.
And this fight is cute, right? Because you can't actually hurt her.
Yeah.
She swings at you. Also, I don't know about you, but I had Sophia in my party.
I did
too. I only had 3 people in this fight.
I liked that. I was impressed. That felt... I hope anyone out there who did, as many people as possible, had her in her party, because I appreciated that as like, you can't just switch it out right now. Like, we're not going to let you do that. Obviously, it doesn't matter to the fight, but it's a... Sure. Yeah. So you have this fight where you can't really hurt her, and she... it gets back into a cutscene. And in that moment, she realizes Joker again.
She sacrifices herself so that she doesn't have to hurt her friends, right?
Yes,
she jumps off this like unexplained precipice.
Yeah, and it's she hopes she is helping her friends in this moment by stopping herself from hurting them and being under Ichinose's rule. But
wait,
yes.
Speaking of unexplained,
yes,
there is one quote that I pulled out in this conversation that I forgot to mention, which is way early on when Emma says that she's the Ark of the Covenant and wants to guide mankind to the Promised Land when she's still this giant gold box that's there in front of them. Sophia says, "Explain this in comprehensible terms," which is like probably just her being like kind of robotic, but also is just an evergreen statement for JRPG plots.
That's fair. Yeah. There's some good meta stuff here, I think. I feel like that. Yeah, that was a real English Egon kind of moment, but I appreciated it here.
Yeah.
So anyway, she sacrifices herself, and Ichinose's like, well, that's okay, I got a plan B, and Emma's that, like, we're just gonna chill with Emma and everything's gonna go well on my end. I'm trying to remember what here, because I skipped writing a few things down. Is this when the diamond shows up?
Yes, but before that...
Okay, because I skipped writing down some stuff from this conversation.
Yeah, so Joker basically, like, you call her, like, heartless, I think.
Right,
and she's like, yeah, and basically explains that she says she's the textbook definition of heartless.
Yes.
And basically explains that she, like, doesn't have emotions, and that she talks all happy and go lucky, but she's actually completely emotionless inside, and it, like, there's some, sociopath sort of, like, implications there.
Yeah.
As we learn later are not true, but, like, this is what she believes about herself, is that she, like, heartless isn't, like, an insult to her. She's just like, yeah, I don't have a heart. Here's this giant crystal that will shoot a giant laser beam at you and kill you all.
That's fair. No, I wrote down all the heartless stuff later because I think it's just said so many times later on.
Yeah, they get into it again later.
Yeah.
This whole section is a lot of conversation with her, and a lot of it is circular.
We can boil it
in
down,
nature.
yes.
Yeah.
But they kept saying heartless, and again, all I could think about was Kingdom Hearts. But anyway, the big diamond shows up. It blasts us away, basically down to the depths where Sophia was.
With all the force of a pillowcase, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, just absolutely does not hurt you in any way.
We're all good. Yeah, it's not like everyone's at like 1 HP or something after, and you have to use healing abilities. No, we're all good. No. Of course, except for Sophia at the moment. She is knocked out. Yeah. She's kind of incapacitated at this point. But we bring her with us to fight back up to Ichinose. Essentially, we have to climb back up this area and get up there. Again, it's just another set of combat scenarios. No real puzzle element to this area.
No, some fun fights.
Yeah,
there's like some. If you remember back to the end of Persona 5, right? There's like some similar guys, like that giant muck guy shows up, and a little bit one of those angel people shows up. So there's some familiar sort of endgame enemies here again.
Yeah, I think this is overall these two jails. I didn't feel like anything was unfair and felt like a pretty good balance of weaknesses versus not in general.
Sure.
But it's just sort of just nonstop combat. So there's not much to get through there. But anyway.
Yeah, the second section especially, or like the later section in the tower especially, there's just tons of enemies with like gun weakness that make fights go a little bit quicker.
Oh my god, yeah, when you get to I think it's a bunch of crows or whatever that have a gun weakness, and my god, is that it's really satisfying because you have so much to use. Yeah, it's great. But anyway, we fight our way back up to Ichinose with Sophia in tow, like we're kind of carrying her along the way, and we challenge Ichinose to a fight basically at this point.
Yeah.
And it's a fight
against... well, there's the plan, right? You make a plan that basically, like, Futaba is going to try to hack the crystal.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing, to stop it while it's charging. So that's the plan, is, like, fight her, distract her while it's charging, and then stop the laser.
Which doesn't work.
No, not at all.
Anyway, we fight a whole bunch of shadows. It's a fight against just, like, nonstop waves of shadows as they come towards you. And the crystal continues to charge up. We're not able to really stop it from happening.
And there is a moment here, there's a little bit of a conversation before the fight where, like, you get Ichinose to be mad. And basically you're, like, sort of immediately pointing out that, like, she does have emotions and she's, like, lying about that, or, like, lying to herself about it. So she gets mad before she fights you, and that's sort of, like, a little crack in the armor sort of thing.
Before we get into more of it. And so you all fight, can't stop the crystal. The laser is about to hit you, but Sophia appears.
Hooray!
To save you. And Sophia jumps in front of you all to save the gang. Ichinose at this point kind of calls her a like lifeless or heartless doll. But we are like, Emma's the doll. No, excuse me. We say that she's actually just Emma's doll.
Yeah. We say Ichinose is Emma's doll, just like
a lot
under
of doll
control.
Back and forth.
And she then is like, "You're correct."
Yep. Haha. I wrote down. She laughs. And she calls herself a heartless doll. And this is when we get really into sort of the backstory of who Ichinose is and why she believes she is the way she is here. And so not to recount every minute of this pretty long backstory that we get into.
Yeah.
But we learn about her creating Sophia because she wanted to learn about the human heart. She never felt like she had a heart her whole life. We see flashes of her life. She lost her parents at a very young age, and she didn't cry, so people called her a heartless doll, and had no emotion. Kids at school mock her. Colleagues mock her. Kind of everyone mocks her throughout her life for not showing emotion. She's someone who outwardly shuts herself down and just doesn't express emotion in that way. So we see all these flashbacks and then get a flashback to her programming Sophia, kind of getting what I believe is the text at the beginning of the game kind of said to her. She sings her a little song, which is the tune that Sophia knows.
Saying she's humanity's companion to kind of give that directive.
Exactly. And hope she can show her like the wonders of the heart is kind of, we learn about all this. And so Ichinose has led her whole life believing this is why she is. Sophia was intended to be what showed her, and then Emma became plan B after that.
Yeah, and she basically, like, there's this moment where she's, like, excited to meet Sophia, but then Sophia, following her programming, asks her about the heart, and then Ichinose doesn't know what to say, so she gets mad and sad and throws Emma away and says, Sophia away, and says, for my next AI, I will not care about the heart at all.
Yeah, and so we learn all of this about kind of Ichinose's mind state going into why she's been okay with... go ahead. Sorry, my dog had to jump off me. We learn all of this about sort of the way she's been acting, and I don't know if you want to pause here. We can kind of get through Ichinose's full arc, or if you want to talk about Ichinose at all, but...
Yeah, let's talk about Ichinose after, because there's a little bit more coming up
for sure
after this like next thing.
So essentially, we're learning all of this about her, about what caused her to make Emma and all of that. And Sophia, at this point, she's pushing Sophia to try to kill us. She just wants to.
Right.
She believes she can use Sophia to do that, and Sophia fights back against her programming, and says she won't kill her friends because they've taught her about the heart and feelings.
Yeah.
And
all those little conversations where she said, "Why is Yusuke sad but happy?" They all pay off.
Yep.
Like, genuinely. Like, that's not me making fun of it. It's, like, actually, like, I'm glad that those moments actually matter, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm glad that all those moments are part of her overall story arc and part of the overall arc of the game of like her and this tying into the main villain of, you know, trying to learn about humanity and how people are feeling. Because those conversations were never bad. They were always just like a little bit sort of like, that's a random little thing that's going on. And now to have a payoff for them is really nice.
Yeah, they could have felt like recap of each little section, but instead had a purpose in the overall arc, which I appreciate. Right. And yeah, so she basically is like, I know the heart. I understand feelings. And she's talking about how she wants to protect her friends. She wants to be there for them, and she wants a heart of her own. She wants to choose her own path. To be
and she specifically says that having a heart is having the power to change.
Yes, and change she does, because she has an awakening.
Yeah!
She hears a voice, she gets a persona, she has her own big moment where they're like, are you powerful enough to have a heart? Like, can you really do this? And all that sort of thing. And she has... Is it Pandora that's on her visor?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's like, all you have to do is say my name, and then she, like, flips her head up, and the visor just says Pandora on it. It's so epic.
It's really great. And so she gets her persona, which is a sexy lady. I messaged Tom when this happened, just because I thought it was... Because you've had her have these sort of like box-like things this whole time that represent her powers, and then sort of have Pandora's box essentially be her persona is really cool, and I think a very nice, fun twist. But it is so also just like JRPG style to have it be Pandora's box opens, and it's a sexy lady hovering inside.
Yeah, it's very silly. But there are some really cool tie-in things here that I wanted to pull out. First of all, a lot of people refer to AI and sentient AI as Pandora's box, right? Like, this is a thing that like people talk about in the real world of like, if you ever could make sentient AI, it would be like opening Pandora's box, and it would be this catastrophic thing. So like, to have her persona be Pandora and Pandora's box is really cool. To have it literally have the box open when she becomes sentient and gets a heart is is really, really neat. There's also, alongside that, all of her skills lose the question mark.
Yes.
Now they're all real skills, which I dig.
Yeah.
And then the one I really liked that's a little more subtle, or maybe it's a little on the nose, I don't know, maybe I'm giving it too much credit, is Pandora during the Awakening talks about, like, it's all talking about her being a doll and her being someone's puppet, right? On, like, being dancing for somebody else the entire time. And she's literally a puppet on strings, and the entire time she's been fighting with yo-yos.
Yeah.
So, like, the entire time she's literally had strings on her as her weapon of choice. And, like, that's just really... I love that sort of symbolism throughout. Like, that it doesn't really make a lot of sense until the very end. And, like, then you're like, oh, right, she's using a literal string weapon. I don't know. Just a tiny thing that I dug.
No, totally. I think... There's a lot of, obviously we've seen other forms of media or just other big pop culture stories, AI and Pinocchio, I guess, is a big one, especially for Ultron. But yeah, no, I think the subtlety of it here in a lot of places, like what you were pointing out, works really well and doesn't overshadow, like it doesn't hit the nail on the head too much. It just kind of is seeding all these things with Sophia. I think the Sophia arc is really well pulled off here. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so unexpected that she gets this moment, right? It is so cool to have her have this triumphant moment. It's a really great animation for it. It's just a really phenomenal sort of unexpected treat at the very end of this game.
I really wasn't expecting her to have an awakening just because she's been part of the party. She's had powers.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't expecting that. So I did really appreciate it. I do think it really puts a nice button on her arc, and as he said, those moments throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
So she refuses Ichinose's command, does all of this, gets her awakening. Ichinose basically just calls her faulty.
Right.
And, you know, it's that back and forth again of us trying to say, like, she's hiding from the truth. We're trying to make her realize what's really going on. She believes Emma's faulty solution is the easy way. We're trying to tell her Emma's faulty solution is the easy way out. That's not the way to go. You should be, you know, listening to our reason. But anyway, then we have a fight.
Yeah, and this fight is actually easier than the one before it. The one before it is just like tons and tons and tons of waves of people. This one felt like it was a little bit more there was like one big guy.
Yes.
And so it gave you something to focus on a little more.
Yeah, this one didn't really give me pause or frustration in any way, and you defeat this first form pretty quickly for me.
Yeah.
And Ichinose starts to like really lose it at this point.
Yeah.
Sophia's trying to get to her. I'm reading through all my notes. I have like I wrote down, as you said, we're not going to transcribe, but I kind of did transcribe at points here. But it's this back and forth of Sophia trying to get to her, that she's like deluded herself and stopped herself from working through her grief.
Yeah.
She gave Sophie this directive to help her because she was lonely. She wanted to know why she felt lonely, and that was really like the big problem here.
Yeah, and this is Sophia telling this to
Yeah.
Ichinose, right? It's not Ichinose realizing this. It's Ichinose has been denying this to herself. And I think it's this really kind of beautiful moment of Sophia being like, you didn't do all these things for research. You did it because you were sad and lonely. And like, then the important follow-up to me is that she's like, that's like, why is that a bad thing, right? Like, it's not a bad thing that you were lonely and tried to do something to understand what was making you lonely or try to make you happier. Yeah. Like, because accepting what's hurting you is the first step towards changing and growing and you know, becoming a stronger person. And I think that's all like a really nice message, right? Is like, don't hide from that sort of stuff, and also don't be ashamed about the way you're feeling and the way that maybe if you don't feel happy, like, that's not something to be ashamed about. That like you it's good to try to make yourself feel better, or try to understand, maybe not even make yourself feel better, just try to understand why you are feeling the way that you are.
Yeah, and I think a nice bit here is her very much telling her, like, you just kept listening to people telling you had no heart, and because it was
Right.
easier to accept that idea than to dig through, as you were saying, like very complex emotions and things, especially when you're young, that are hard to parse and understand and work through. And she let herself kind of accept the easy way out and accept the idea that she had no heart and didn't have these emotions. But
Yeah.
like you said, it is, I think, a very good and pretty true message that it's like, it wasn't bad that you wanted to work through these things. You just ended up taking a path that perhaps was not great and caused humanity to possibly go on the brink of destruction. But
right. Yeah, because she pushed it away, right? She couldn't accept how she was feeling, and so she pushed it away and isolated herself in a way that created a literal god and destroyed the world. But, you know,
yeah,
we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all done that. But Sophie is like, basically calls her very first friend, and that she cares for Ichinose. Like, at the end of the day, she cares for her, and her saying she has no heart, it doesn't ring true to her because she cares about this person. And Ichinose starts to cry.
Yeah.
Because
she changes her heart.
Yes. But no.
And Zenkichi has a really nice line here where he says, a daughter's words cut the deepest.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's nice because it ties the whole Akane and Zenkichi relationship of father-daughter to this, like, relationship of Sophia and Ichinose, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I appreciate that parallel, that it is sort of like, in some of the way that Strikers is like the child of the first game, sort of like looking back on it and pushing back on some of those things. It's like that theme goes throughout the whole game.
Totally.
In a way that isn't highly developed. Like, they don't spend a ton of time on it because the game is only 40 hours long or whatever.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it nonetheless, that it is a through line of sorts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then Ichinose rips her face off and no, she doesn't become part of the team. But it felt like in another game, if Sophia hadn't just had her awakening, it feels like Ichinose could have had an awakening here. But I digress. Anyway, Sophie, at this point, like, sticks with us. She apologizes to everyone for what happened. And we're like, no, it's cool. We get it.
Yeah.
It's cool that you had an awakening now. But at this point, like, Emma has disappeared, essentially. The arc has, like, disappeared, and it is gone from here. Emma's voice is still gathering people outside the jail, though. We don't really know, how to stop her at this point, but Ichinose is kind of along for the ride. is now on our side, is our friend.
Yeah, because she goes from saying just kill me because I'll never stop getting in your way, and then Sophia sort of changes her heart here by speaking to her, and then Ryuji even is like it or not, friend of Sophia is a friend of ours, and we're saving you, so deal with it. You're coming with us, and like they start aggressively friendly,
which is very Phantom Thieves, to be fair.
It's very Phantom Thieves.
Yeah. So they're like, yep, too bad. You're sticking with us even though you just tried to destroy the world, but it's all right. And then we go back.
Gameplay recording is not now blocked.
Yes, that did pop up. You're correct. The gameplay recording has been paused during the scene, which is
if you're playing on PlayStation, that is, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder how that works on other platforms.
You cannot control the PC. They'll do what they want.
Well,
if they want to record the game, they will record the game.
I meant like Switch. I wonder what happens.
Oh, well, yeah. Switch, you can only record, 30 seconds at a time?
Yeah, so does it just stop that button from working?
I don't know.
Let us know out there. Anyway, we go back out to the real world after Sophia is hearing the same voices they heard in the Okinawa jail. And this is, I said it a little bit earlier and I kind of meant it incorrectly there, but this is where the metaverse and the real world start to really blend.
Yes.
We see everyone watching the tower, their phones, and everything's kind of right there. The group is kind of trying to figure out what is going on, and the lights go out all around Tokyo. And then the tower itself, the radio tower, grows super bright, and like light in the shape of a tree kind of sprouts out of it into the sky. Yeah. And we flash into the metaverse at this point. And we thought we were still in the real world, but Sophie is here. The two worlds are blending at this point. We see groups of people being led in, so they're just being shepherded in to the promised land, as Emma wants them to be.
Yeah.
And we're in another jail, technically.
Yeah.
Second jail. But it goes by pretty quickly.
It
again,
does.
We don't need to say, I think the only thing about this is that there is a server room. We very specifically say, let's leave that alone for now.
Yeah, well, before we get into the actual tower...
Yes.
Well, there's a cute moment where Ichinose tells Sophia to be careful, which is cute. I like Ichinose as a character a lot.
I do too.
I agree. I wish that she had been in the game more and kind of developed more, rather than being this sort of dump of all of her character growth and arc in a single section here.
Yeah.
But I really do like her as a character. I like her as a villain, a very complex, complicated sort of why she's doing the things she did and how she grows out of that. It's just all very condensed.
Yeah.
And then, so you start the jail, right? And immediately you can leave.
Yes.
There's a button to leave the jail, in which case you go back to the car and you're all in your Phantom Thief outfits in the RV, including Morgana and Sophia, like huddled up in the little top area, which is so funny.
Yeah.
And then you get more requests, one of which is from Ichinose, telling you to go back and get junk in the palace or the jail you just came from. And she's like, I'll make it worth your while. And it's like, we just had this moment. Just give me the thing.
Yep. Your rogue AI is about to take over the world. Let's maybe not focus on that right now.
And it's like a weapon for Ryuji.
Yeah.
It's like if you have this, just give it to us.
We're friends.
Like, we're friends now. What are you doing?
It's a really funny. Again, it's helpful if you are underpowered. Like we've said, it is better that the game gives you these moments than not. But in the context of what's going on, it is very funny.
And you can even go back to other jails at this point.
Yes.
You can literally put the end of the world on hold again and go back to other jails and finish any requests that you have. So, like, this idea that when you were in Osaka, the game was like, hey, this is the last chance you'll have to go through to the metaverse. And then it, like, keeps giving you more chances to go back is incredible. Because, before this moment, I spent all of my money because I thought I would never be able to spend it again.
That's right. Well, I was going to say, even to be fair, the game itself then gives you a moment at the end of the game after you've beaten it to be like, if you want to go back with this save, we can go do that.
It's really flexible. And I ultimately, again, really appreciate that flexibility.
Agreed.
It's just comical, too.
Yes. Yeah, just in the tone and timing of what's happening here, it is very funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are back in another jail. We're here after doing all of our requests, after cooking, after stopping to fuse Persona, shopping.
I made 9 plates of curry.
I made so many SP items. It's very funny also at this point that Sophia's black market still technically works. Again, I know that it would be really crappy if the game took away your ability to buy items at the end of the game, but it is very funny that her black market, it's like, the world's about to collapse, but hey, yeah, we can ship you something real quick.
Yeah, it's very funny. But yeah, like you were saying, basically it's 4 floors of fighting through this sort of office building style area, and there's the server room that you conspicuously ignore on floor 3.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. We go through all that. We find the Ark of the Covenant. Ryuji calls it, as I have written down, a big box of bullshit. Emma talks about entering the Promised Land at this point. The Ark is saying, like, even we can join, but naturally we resist. And it opens up with a blinding white light. And we...
Yeah, it's got a great line here. A great villain line, if I may. Which is, the Ark says, you argue about, like, desires and choosing your own path or whatever. And says this is the only way to make humanity, like, cure humanity's problems, because this world is full of pain. Allow me to provide proof, which is such like a baller evil villain line.
That's good. Yeah.
And then it doesn't actually hurt you. It just puts you into this weird misty fog level.
Yeah. And I will admit, I did get trapped here a little bit.
It's like, so tell me about your experience with this area.
So, yeah, you end up in this foggy hallway, and the solution is what I thought it would be at first, which is essentially you just need to kind of break out and go into the sides of it as the world starts, and then the wall kind of bubbles and like shimmers as you go there, and it gets foggier and foggier. But I didn't notice the foggy effect happening immediately. I thought that was just maybe the camera angle or the way I was like moving around in the world. So I didn't keep him running into the side of it for a little bit, because it actually takes a long time. Like, it's not a short amount of time you need to hold it. It's like a good 10 seconds or whatever, which, yes, is a short amount of time. But in the context of what you're doing
now, In the context of video game feedback, it is a very long amount of time. I like that it gives you your objective as just obey, right? Yeah. And you just, like, walk, and you'll realize pretty quick that that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
But I agree. A lot of the times in games like this, you'll, like, hold against a wall for a couple seconds and then be like, that's not right. And if you hold against a wall for a couple seconds and then go away, you, like, might not even notice that the screen is getting foggier. So it's like a little bit less intuitive than I think it should have been.
Yeah, and I did that a couple times, to be fair. Like, I did go into the wall, because the thing is, throughout this hallway, there's like areas where sort of the, trees of darkness are blocking the side, and then there's clear, like, open areas that you can't go into, but clear open pathways. And so I went down the hallway like 3 times being like, okay, if I go to this one, maybe it'll work this time. And then I would ping pong back and forth, and I tried all of those. I tried going backwards because I'm like, that's a common puzzle solution. And then finally I just held it against the wall for 10 seconds and it worked.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't think that's something to be embarrassed about. I think that this level is a little bit like there should have been some more effect. Like, your controller rumbles, but like that's a little bit subtle. And a lot of the time, like, I recognize controller rumble as like a bad thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Is like a deterrent.
So
I think you shouldn't be embarrassed about that. I think it is definitely a little bit less or more confusing than it should be.
You don't need to worry. There are so many other things I am more embarrassed about in my life on a day-to-day basis. It's fine. It happened. I lost a shameful game of Mario Party over the weekend. I've been through much worse. Anyway,
now I'm curious about that.
Anyway, let's
do a take your time season where we do one episode for each turn of Mario Party for a 50 game turn game.
Don't you joke with me.
An entire year.
I will do it. I will absolutely do that. It is
you and I play one game of Mario Party, one turn a week for a year.
I would do it. It is so silly and dumb that I would do that, because that sounds ridiculous.
Well, we'll talk about it later.
Anyway, I'm also thinking of now a podcast where you go through like minigame by minigame and you rank every minigame in Mario Party. We're giving away free content here. Anyway.
Much like this level, we're going off the path here.
This show just dramatically changes next year. It's just a Mario Party show. Anyway, you break out of this foggy path and you find an enormous desire, basically. You realize that the Ark has been hiding this enormous desire in that cloud, and so you decide it's time to send a calling card. But Ichinose is like, that's not going to work. Emma has figured out every single path in the world. They have thought through every permutation of the multiverse. They Doctor Stranged it in Infinity War and Endgame. You can't do that, my friend. And so we're like, okay, we can't send it to Emma. What do? We'll do something that I think Emma probably should have thought of and hack Emma and send a calling card to everyone under her spell.
Yeah, there's this distinction made that, like, you're not stealing Emma's desires because Emma didn't take them. They were given to her, so therefore the people's they're still the people's desires, so you have to scare the people into thinking their desires will be taken from Emma. So they're going to send the calling cards to everyone else.
Yeah, and so
which is some fun logic, right?
It's cool.
Dig it.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it. So of course to do that, we got to go back to that server room, which we do. Yeah. Futaba.
Who would have thought that would come up?
Surprising. I think it would have been funnier if they didn't go back there. And they're like, well, the server room isn't going to help. You do a hacking, I guess the final hacking with Futaba section, where you guard her behind the door in actually a pretty small area.
Yeah, it's super small compared to the other stuff.
So you really got to make sure a lot of it, like, I used a lot more magic attacks that were wider than, like, I sacrificed power for space here, basically.
Sure.
But anyway, also it's really great when you get one of those enemies who's weak to gun, because it works really well in this area. You do that, you then get into the next room, and I gotta tell you, when they go in and Futaba's like, I gotta hack in here, I really thought it was going to be a second hacking Futaba sequence. But it's not.
In an even smaller room.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. But no, it's just Futaba's having trouble. And it's just like, if I had a little more time or if I was a little bit better about this, I could do this. And then what if someone else came to help? And Ichinose appears. And it's like, hold on, we left you at the front door. What are you doing?
And she's like, they didn't even attack me. I'm fine. And they hacked Emma together, which is nice. I like that she comes back to do this.
I do too. It's cute. We do that. They're like, we'll send the calling card out to everyone, and so we do this sort of like you see everyone get the message on their phones. I like that there's a line here of like, our logo by now, basically. Like, we have a good PR team. You've heard of us by now, okay? And so the calling card gets sent out to everyone in the world, and then it's time to get to the final fight. We get in the elevator, we're riding it back up to the final fight, and then oh, it's me, Lavenza, here for another visit. Hello. Hi.
Dude, I straight skipped the dialogue in this scene. I barely read it.
This is the egregious one for me. I didn't mind the first one that we talked about earlier. Whatever, it was fine. This one, where Lavenza is basically the scene boils down to me of like, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you it was the AI the whole time.
Yeah.
And it basically boils down to like, the problem was, I wanted you to be surprised at the end of the game. Like, it's just...
and then she asks you a question where she's like, will you fight and save the world? And you're like, yeah. And then the cage explodes and she's like, because you've dedicated yourself to this, you're free now. And it's like, oh, what have I been doing? What have I been doing?
None of that.
And like, you busting out of the cage at the end of Persona 5 was like symbolic, because it was this whole thing where the cage was this, this tied into the plot of the game and all this stuff. And it was like a moment when you broke out, and here it's like you break out and you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Again,
I didn't realize it was locked. I thought it was open still.
It's one of those things where it's trying to parallel the importance of this aspect in the first game, and it just doesn't quite bridge the gap. Again, the Velvet Room being here for the gameplay worked out really well. It just doesn't it doesn't have the same impetus in the story.
And it is such a minor squabble, right? Yes. It is not a big, huge thing.
It's not in the slightest.
It's just so much fun to make fun of, because it's such an easy target.
It's just a very funny, like, at this point in the game, I think what the Velvet Room throughout this game does is, like, right as you're about to get to a big moment, it takes you away from it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't have the story implication there that it matters as much. And so, yeah, it's a one final sort of reminder of, like, this didn't quite work in here. But hey, at least I got to quad fuse my persona. So I
didn't even do it. I didn't even look at my personas this whole time.
I did a couple. But anyway, I lost my place, but we get out of that, and now it's time for the final fight.
Actual final fight.
And of course, it's against a god.
Yes. They don't actually... They make you fight the Grail in the original. They don't actually make you fight the box.
Yes, you don't fight the Ark, technically, here.
Yeah.
It transforms into the Demiurge.
Demiurge.
I wrote... I did write down a funny thing about the Velvet Room scene. I was just like, because Lavenza's like, she was not able to foresee this happening. I was like, she must not watch a lot of sci-fi. Because as we said, AI going rogue, that happens all the time. She must just not have seen The Matrix, I guess. Anyway, we come back out of it. Out of the box comes a bunch of, like, long, stretchy arms scooping up desires, and it becomes this big god with a screen on its head, or, like, above its head.
Yeah, with, like, some little code or something
yeah,
going.
with some code and a bunch of arms, big, like, staff, all this sort of thing, and now we get the final fight. So we have the pretty standard first phase of it. I don't think there's anything super of note in that fight to talk about.
No, it's like, it's an interesting sort of giant enemy fight, right? Because you're hitting it on the front when it's doing things, and then it'll do these moves that are these sweeping moves that take out the whole, like, deal damage to the whole platform, and so you can jump to these other platforms to get away from that. What I will say is my whole Ryuji is overpowered strategy came very true in this section. Yeah. Because I think that this phase, it only got 2 attacks off.
Wow.
The entire fight.
Oh, wow.
Because I would use square once, then charge with Ryuji and hit, and every time it crit, it would destroy an entire shield. So, like, and the charge attacks are so long that literally, like, I would just not move. I would just keep repeating that move with Ryuji over and over and over and over again. And so, like, it would constantly interrupt its attacks, and it only ever got, like, a couple attacks off on me.
Wow. That's amazing. I took a little bit longer, nuts. But that's really good to know.
It felt kind of like
unfair.
It felt a little bit like I was ruining the game for myself. It was like one of those strategies where you're like, maybe I just shouldn't do this.
Sure. Yeah.
Because those moves are cool, right? They fill the whole screen, and, like, you gotta dodge them. That's neat.
Oh, it's a cool set of attacks for sure, yeah. And especially ping-ponging around and going to the different platforms. It works all well, but yeah, if you...
And the design of Demiurge is just neat, too, of these huge wings right in the cage that's holding this bird cage in the center. It's very reminiscent of Yaldabaoth, the final kind of god boss of the last game.
Absolutely, yeah.
In very intentionally so.
Oh, totally. But so as you're defeating this first phase, you kind of get this little back and forth about how this is... Demiurge thinks, like, taking away the worry of desires is what humanity wants. It will make everyone feel better. But Emma kind of fights back,
Sophia does.
Sophia. Keep going back and forth with them. Sophia fights back and says, like, the pain of the monarchs is what she, like, witnessed throughout this, and knows that, like, good can come from people suffering, and in fact people can learn from that, people can improve and get better, and that's kind of what comes part and parcel with that stuff. And Emma is just like, no, this is just the idea that suffering is virtuous, which you wrote down and I also wrote down. I think that's a really good line of, like, where Emma's coming from on this is just like, thinks it's a false sense, but it's not, you know, is what, like, the gang kind of gets toward.
And this is an interesting point to me because I think it's a point I kind of, like, not blanket agree with, but, like, there is sort of a way that you can take what Sophia is saying too far. And there are cultures where, like, you know, not to call out any specific culture that believes this or whatever, but, like, there are cultures that sort of celebrate the struggle to a degree that is maybe, like, unhealthy, right? And that, like, if you're not absolutely struggling for everything you get, then you don't deserve it, right? Sure. Is, like, sort of an extreme taken too far, and that's not what Sophia is saying, but like the fact that Demiurge sort of like brings it up, I think is like fair enough, right? Like it's not like this. I think that this entity probably genuinely does want to help people. It's just like not doing it in a way that is good.
For me, it's the thing of like virtuous is less the word I would use and more like noble. Like it's the thing of you must suffer for your art. Like to be a good artist, you have to suffer is a thing that people believe. And a lot of especially modern pushback has been like, no, obviously you can learn and improve through suffering. Like it is a part of life. Not everything can be good and perfect, but it doesn't mean we think you need to go through X, Y, and Z tragedies to be better. But yes, I agree that there is a point where it can be taken too far, and that aspect of what Demiurge is arguing isn't inherently wrong to me.
Yeah, I think that's... it's unfortunate because it's unfortunate that they introduced this so late, because I think it's a theme I would have liked to see them sort of like talk about more.
Totally.
And they don't really. There's just sort of this one line about it, and it is sort of the tip of the iceberg in what could be discussed there. And obviously we're not going to like pick it apart and get philosophical to the ends of the earth about it here, but yeah, I thought it was something worth highlighting at least.
Yeah. So anyway, then you get into the next phase.
And it has arms now.
It has a bunch of arms, and
they're arms now.
It's my favorite evolution in any Pokemon game. Arms now.
That's Machop, Machoke, Machamp just gets more and more arms, right?
Yeah. Is there a Pokemon like that I wish there was one that was more legs? Like that should have been the opposite of the Machop. Should have been one that just got more legs. Anyway, you get into this fight where essentially you can't defeat it. It's healing. Your attacks aren't doing anything.
It just heals up forever.
You need to analyze, and then Futaba analyzes and is like, "You're going to want to hear this," and basically there are a bunch of orbs that you need to defeat in order to actually attack the Demiurge. And you get this really cool, like you were saying earlier, you were hinting that you really like it. You get a split up 3-part fight.
Dude, this rules.
It's great.
This is such a good way to differentiate this boss fight from the end of the other game. And it's such a good way to lean into both the large party of this game and the different combat style of this game.
That was my only real downside, was like it works so well for the fact that you've had this whole party from the start. I almost wish this had happened at other points just because it's an idea that I like, but I also kind of get why it's saved for the end because it is more impactful in that way. But yeah, it was a thing where I'm like, oh, I would have done several fights like this. I like the idea of it. So yeah, you create 3 parties that you're going to have to send off and fight. Joker is defaulted to one of them, and then
to the main one,
to the main fight, and then the other 2 teams go off to fight a group of like 6 orbs each.
Five orbs each.
Okay,
and each one has a different weakness and a different thing it does and a different element it uses. One, uses Almighty. One summons minions. One summons the wardens. Like it summons a warden to fight you, right? And the way you split up your party, it's a little bit random, right? Like, it's a little unfortunate if you, like, just don't have on the side that has one weak to fire. But at the same time, like, none of them are so high life that becomes a frustrating issue. They all have a really good amount of life where it's, like, using the weakness will tear through them, but otherwise they're just sort of a fight. It's not like the Wardens where they are absolute sponges.
Yeah, they aren't huge HP dumps, and I did find that like showtimes more than ever really helped cut them down.
They take out like half their life.
Yeah, and because you're using everyone, I felt pretty liberally like fine to use everyone's gun because that racks up your showtime a lot and was bouncing around. And some people just did a lot of damage. Like whatever group had Haru just wrecked them. It was great, and so I felt pretty well balanced. You're right. I'm forgetting my exact makeup, but yeah, there were definitely a couple on each side where I was like, oh, I should have had them so I could have hit that weakness, but it never...
Sure.
It didn't keep me for more than like an extra minute or 2 from fighting back.
I actually saved mine. So my thing was that I put Ryuji on the main body, with Joker because Ryuji hits like a truck and I just wanted to have that be on the main body. And then I split the 3 kind of main people with healing across each group. So Morgana was on the main body with Joker and Ryuji. And then I put Sophia on one group and on another group. And then I split up Yusuke and Makoto and Zenkichi and Haru to try to just like have the like heavy hitters and support people sort of spread out throughout them. And so I had 3 groups of 3. That's the other thing I like is that you have 9 fighters.
Yeah.
So you can either have 4 people in the main body and then another group will only have 1 or 2. Or you can split them up 3-3-3, which is what I did.
I think
It's just a great system. It's like just really cool.
Yeah, I really appreciated this section. I'm trying to remember. I think I want to say I had one team that was like on Yusuke and someone else, and then I had Zenkichi, Haru, and someone else, and then I think I had Joker, Ryuji, and someone else. I'm blanking on where I put a few, like where Makoto was, where I'm blanking on where a few where so I think I put Sophia ultimately in the main party as well. Down there, but
this is also like an awesome scene or an awesome choice in this scene is that as you're breaking the spheres, every time you destroy one, you can look over across the way and there's one will disappear from the other one.
Yeah.
And the way that they kind of do this is that you destroy all 5 spheres and then it cuts back to when the group splits up. And then you destroy all 5 spheres, and then it cuts back to when the group splits up, and then you're fighting the thing, and occasionally it'll get staggered as a sphere gets destroyed.
Yeah.
So, like, the way they intercut it is as if all 3 of these fights are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's so cool. It's just so satisfying.
It's what the scene should be, and it's a very hard thing to pull off. So I also appreciate it because there's a world where they do it where you're like, you fight here for X amount of time and then it forces you over here and you fight for X amount of time and then forces you there and you go in like a circle like that, or like you defeat one, then you defeat one, then you defeat one, or like it could have really, I think the balance that they got here, it's like a little jarring at first. It took me a minute to get, it's concurrent, but it works well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
cool.
cool.
Actually, now that you mention it, I wonder if the Akane fight was almost going to be like something like this, where you would split up into different groups.
I mean, that was my ideal for that fight, was where you would fight against a couple at a time or whatever and go back and forth. But I think having the impact, again, I wish there were versions of this earlier, but I think having the impact at least at the end is very cool.
Totally.
So you do this, you do a final all-out attack after you've whittled down the health, after you've gone through all 3.
Super cool cutscene.
Epic cutscene of everyone getting 1 or 2 attacks in. A lot of their gun moves, I will say, which was amusing just because it was like a couple people use their specific powers, but then for some people it's just hammering them with like giant rocket launchers and things. And then Joker comes in for the final kill, stabs it in its like eye, its like main sort of core thing. I want to say I didn't record it exactly and I should have, but I think Ryuji hits it in the balls. It has that like one red orb toward the bottom. And,
that would track.
And Ryuji hits it there, and I was like, that feels like Ryuji. Yeah.
They do refer to Emma as she, but I guess when you're a giant incorporeal god creature thing, it's like, that tracks.
It just essentially was kind of like that's where it would be on like this like human figure, and Ryuji, I'm pretty sure hits it there, and I'm like, yeah, that seems like Ryuji's tactic, I guess.
Tracks. Yeah.
But anyway, final all-out attack. Destroy it, and desires rain back down onto humanity.
Yeah. And everyone celebrates and is happy, and then the metaverse collapses, so they run away.
Yeah. And the game is over. No, we have a lot of wrap-up to get through.
Indeed.
But yeah, everything is fine.
It actually jumps to the next day.
Yes, yeah.
It's the morning now.
I do appreciate how much the game does go into little details here, though, where it's like, we need to get Ichinose. Sophia offers to go get her at this point as the metaverse is collapsing. But yeah, we get back into the real world. Ichinose appears, like Sophia grabbed her, everyone's safe. Everything's back to normal. Of course, no one in the real world remembers anything. Ichinose says she's going back to Shibuya to revisit her past.
Yeah.
And then Kichi says, we're all in the clear, so our deal is through. Goodbye, kids. It's like, no, buddy, you're one of us. Knock it off.
It's funny how much he tries to, like, bail, and you're like, nah, You're our friend. Deal with it.
Again, very Phantom Thievesy of like, we bully him into being our friend, basically.
Yeah. But it is very much a goodbye, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he does the very like, I'll see you all again, Phantom Thieves. I mean, you damn kids.
Yeah.
This was where I wrote down a line that I thought was very meta, and that's maybe just for me. But he talks about appreciating like all the work that we've done, even though it started out as him using us and all that sort of thing. And his heart changed before he ever saw it coming. And then Ryuji laughs at that line. And I'm like, Ryuji, do you know the song? Are you aware of the song that plays when you fight? And then I just have the headcanon that song plays in Ryuji's head every time he fights now.
I mean, I don't think that's headcanon. I think that's just canon.
I hope, yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was very funny that he laughs at the line. I'm like, how do you know the song? What is going on? Anyway, he's essentially like finally ready to take down Awada.
Right.
So that's what he's going off to do. And
that whole thing that he was doing before the world started ending.
Exactly. And then we head home. We decide to head home after he leaves, and we end up in the cafe, a day later. But we end up...
No, this is the same day.
Or, sorry, forgive me, a day later than Sojiro planned for us to be there. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
Yeah, forgive me. We come home a day late, and it's just us in LeBlanc with... it's Joker, Futaba, and Sophie. We introduce Sophie.
Yeah, we introduced him, and I love this moment, too, because Sojiro's, like, mad that they're a day late and didn't call about it, and Futaba's just like, I'm sorry, we had to, like, kill a god and save humanity, and there was a rogue AI, and she just, like, tells the truth, and he's just like, well, I'm glad you're safe. It's like, you've come so far with him.
Yeah, it's very cute. And he's like, oh, you crazy kids. We introduce the two of them, Sojiro and Sophia. She perks up about hearing us talk about coffee and curry. She introduces herself, and then it cuts to that night. The Velvet Room, baby.
Yeah, number three.
We're in our normal clothes. It's a goodbye wrap-up.
Yeah.
We saved everything. The end.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, it's the least egregious of them because it's just like, yeah, it's wrapping up. Good night. Goodbye, and that's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, that happens, and then we get to August 30th, another day.
Yeah, and this is definitely like speeding through to the end of like we gotta go, we gotta get going.
Yeah, we're very much in wrap up territory, going forward from here. Except for the final jail that appears, which we'll talk about in a little bit, of course, and we have 12 more hours of gameplay to get through. No. We get to the party on August 30th, yeah. Everyone's celebrating. We're kind of upstairs in the attic, which is... I did appreciate how, like, sad it looks in the background. Like, the wall is not, like, molding, but it's clearly, like, no one's up here or living in it, so the bed is just kind of empty. The walls and everything are bare. It's, like,
all
sad.
All your toys are gone.
I know. But you're all up there celebrating. The attic is so cold and empty, is how I wrote it down, which is very dark. We have a feast before us, but Ryuji is very tired. He couldn't fall asleep because his home bed just wasn't like the great camper that they love so much.
Yeah, they all missed the RV, which they couldn't figure out the name of.
The Feathermobile, the Phantommobile, yada yada. So they have this whole back and forth. They're kind of talking about how no one remembers but us about what happened. Ryuji wants a little bit of credit, like some fangirls, you know? And then I, of course, picked the dialogue choice where you can be like, OMG, it's Ryuji, yay! He's like, stop it, you're a terrible actor. So you have all this discussion about things, talk about missing... Go ahead.
Well, the kind of main takeaway of going into this, right, is that, like, school's starting back up soon, you're leaving tomorrow, right? Like, stuff is... The world is kind of going back into its rhythm.
Yes.
Or starting to. Summer is over.
Yeah. We're starting to get back to things. They have a little bit still, again, of like, hanging mystery we haven't resolved. And we talk about wondering why Sophia was in the Shibuya jail. We kind of realize, that's where Ichinose was, so it would make sense that, that's kind of where she was born and why that would all happen. And
just close that loophole real quick.
Which I did as soon as Ichinose mentioned Shibuya going back there. I was like, hold on a second. So I'm glad that it does kind of like bring it up here and wraps things up.
Yeah.
We kind of ask Makoto asks why Sophia seems distracted about after the demiurge and everything that happened. She says she heard Emma's voice and had a final request for her, to follow her heart to save humanity as she was dying. It's very sweet.
Yeah. See, she cared. She just wanted what was best. She just was wrong about what was best.
And we taught her that by fighting her.
Yeah. Like we do all people.
There's more, back and forth and just cute like character moments here. Morgana talks about Sophia becoming a role model for how AI and humans can live together. Ryuji and Yusuke do a soda chugging contest to lighten the mood, which means they're going to have a terrible hangover tomorrow, if we've learned anything from past parties. And then back in
Futaba has a really good line in here too, where when you say that you have to leave or whatever the next day, she says, "Make like a perennial and be sure you come back."
Yes.
Because she previously said, "Make like a tree and get out of here," or whatever.
Yep, I enjoyed that. What's weird was my brain, I was clearly tired when I was playing the end, because my brain heard, why did she say make like a millennial? But no, her version is much funnier. Anyway, so you have all this back and forth, and then you get a little bit of a nighttime scene like we would if it was just normal days back in Persona 5. And it's you, Sophia, and Morgana kind of talking, reflecting on how the group has grown. Sophia, again, wondering like where she goes from here, what her path is, and we're kind of like, you'll be with us. Morgana and I will like help keep you company and help figure this out. And that totally stays true.
Yep.
No.
Last day. Last day,
August 31st. Right on time.
Actual last day.
Just exactly the day we're recording this episode.
Yeah, we just waited to publish them all.
Yeah, we waited to publish it all. We were really keeping ahead of the times. Everyone is wishing each other, safe travels. We're outside the cafe, all saying goodbye. Futaba tells us to come back at winter break. Sojiro is like, the attic is always yours. And Futaba has a present for Ichinose, but first...
For Sophia.
Yes, thank you, for Sophia. First, Ichinose sends us a message and wants to meet all of us in front of the station in Shibuya.
Yeah.
So we all go over there. Before she shows up, we see a news report. Owada arrest warrant has gone out. There's a press conference. That press conference appears yet again, that room, and Kaburagi is there. And basically it's just like, hey, yeah, Owada did all these things. He was real bad. He did so many terrible things that it just keeps... You can't believe it. If you heard this in real life, you'd be like, this must be a joke. There's no way one person did all these things. But he gets arrested. They talk about him essentially getting all these charges for the murder as well of Zenkichi's wife, Akane's mother, gets brought up here as well. Not just all the stuff that's been happening recently. And also all the corruption in the police department that has also been taken care of.
Yep. Everything's great.
Just a whole mess is gone on, but they're cleaning it up. And then Ichinose finally shows up and is like, yeah, I turned myself in right after all that happened.
Which, like, to be frank, let's break that down for a sec. Good? Like, she, after the 29th or whatever, the morning of, she's like, I gotta go take some time to go home and think about stuff for a bit. And, like, literally in my notes, I wrote down in all caps, she is a criminal. Mm-hmm. Like, she made an AI that she let loose and just was okay with destroying the world and then helped it and then attacked you. And, like, you just were like, yeah, you're our friend now. Go ahead. And so the fact that she comes back and is like, actually, I couldn't live with myself and I wanted to turn myself in right away, and the police didn't believe me, and so I couldn't, made me be like, okay, I respect you a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a good moment, because you're right. Granted, we did help her see the truth, but yes, she did commit a lot of criminal activity, I would say. But she comes back to us. They were like, didn't believe anything she said. Even Zenkichi kind of blew her off about this and was like, helped get her to not be arrested.
Cops didn't have time for fairy tales, he said, which is like a very cool Zenkichi thing to do.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm going on a trip to learn more about the human heart. I'm going to, stop blocking this idea off for myself and actually go out there, learn about things. But she wanted to apologize to all of us first. And it's going to be a sweet farewell where the rest of the group is hanging out. But she wants Sophia wants to join her. And Sophia's like,
Yeah.
this is really hard for me to like do and like leave you all. Obviously we've grown so well together and I've learned so much from all of you, but I want to be able to go with her. And what Futaba has been trying to tell us is that she has been working in the background on a program to get Sophia off of Joker's phone so that Sophia can actually move around. And it's very sad. Futaba doesn't want to let her go. Like, she feels really sad about this as a goodbye, but knows it's for the best, and everyone kind of like helps talk her through it.
It's a nice end to her story that she goes off with her creator and their friends, and they're doing the thing that she wanted to do Ichinose wanted to do with her in the first place.
Exactly. And Futaba works on that program, helps get her off the phone. She says like she won't forget us. And after she and Ichinose leave, we get a message from Sophia.
Yeah, she sends us the picture of the group together, which is great.
A photo of all of us together, and then credits.
Credits. Hooray! We did it.
We beat Persona 5 Strikers.
Yes.
Now, Tom.
Credits play. There's a bunch of great photos, right, of like cute moments throughout the whole trip. And then there's the final cutscene after that.
Yes.
Which is basically just like Zenkichi being cool and saving the day.
Yeah, as you would.
And then them all saying goodbye.
Yeah. Nice wrap up. And then, of course, you can save your game so that you can go back in.
Yeah.
Complete all the requests, beat all those tough personas, those shadows that you didn't earlier. But that is where the game wraps up.
Hooray!
Not so much of a cliffhanger as perhaps another ending we've talked about.
No, it's not.
It's much more of a wrap up.
That's Strikers, though. We did it.
In a third of the time.
Yeah, it took me 35 hours, I think my final clock was at, which is about 5 hours quicker than the first time I played.
Yeah, my final, I forget the exact, it was about like 41, 42 for me.
4142 was like exactly what my previous one was.
Yeah.
And that was with doing all of the requests, I think, or at least most of the requests.
I
didn't finish them all.
Yeah, I have a few requests still that I could have done. I just more wanted to. When we were in the end game and I knew I was leveled enough, I just kind of was like, I want to see where this goes. So I just focused on that. But, and I didn't go back to beat all the tough personas or things like that. But,
But Strikers.
We did it. We hit Strikers.
I think overall, very fun game. Combat system is a lot of fun. It's not necessarily, Devil May Cry, insane platinum fighter or whatever. But it's very, very entertaining and fun. The characters feel different in a good way. I think the jails are fun to explore. I like the shorter structure. I think they do it well, even if it does cause some story problems. I like the story and how it relates to the old game, even if it does get a little derivative at points and feel a little rushed at other points. I think overall it's a really great game, and it's a really great proper sequel to 5, right? Like it feels like a very satisfying follow-up story and adventure with this team.
Did anything from playing it a second time here stand out to you differently or more so?
I think it stuck out to me kind of how it was funny to replay it knowing a lot of the tricks, right? Like the Ryuji being able to just withstand every attack forever. I tried to stop using that at times. I did get to do I got all of the master arts with every character, which was an achievement I had been missing the first time through.
Sure.
Yeah. It was mostly what I was expecting. This game is when I replayed Persona 5 Royal, that game is so dense, there's so much, and there's so many choices to make that you really can get a different experience of it the second time you play through it. Whereas this is a little bit more self-contained, right?
Sure.
There's a lot less flexibility just by the nature of it being a smaller game. Not a small game. 40 hours is not small, but a smaller game than 150.
Totally.
So, it didn't differ a ton. I will say I probably would not have replayed it normally if it wasn't for this podcast. I'm very glad I did, though. I had a lot of fun doing so.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad I saw it. Obviously, been through base Persona 5 twice, Royal once, base being the second playthrough was Royal.
Yeah.
But as my first playthrough, I think for me it's a game that is for Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal in general, it's a quick rise to like a really high peak for me, and it like almost uniformly stays at that spot. You know, occasional dips here with like Okuma and whatnot. But for me, I think Strikers is more up and down. Yeah. Like there's aspects of it I love. There's aspects of it I don't think quite worked as well. And because of the shorter package, those things stand out more. Yeah. But I'm with you in terms of I think when it does, which is largely outside of the ending, the ending story beats. Outside of that, it does really do a great job of being a proper sequel and not treading the same ground again until it gets to the end. I think especially more so if you've played Royal, it feels retreading because of themes that come up in there that don't come up in Base 5.
Yes.
But the way, like you said, that it handles, and I think the thing that we've praised it almost throughout the whole time as, the way it handles the arcs of the Phantom Thieves is they have gone through things. Here is them acting in a way where they have been able to internalize that, have been able to grow, where they are different people from the beginning of when we met them in P5. And I think this does a really great job of executing on that, even when stuff on the like gameplay side could feel a little bit less exciting beat by beat for me, I think.
I think that's totally fair. But overall, I do think it's a great game, and I think it's a great follow-up, and I'm glad we took our time to dig into it like we did P5, because I will say, and obviously if you're getting to this point in this podcast, you've probably already played it or are considering, maybe you're not and you're just looking for a recap, but I will say, if the action combat isn't a complete and utter deal breaker for you going off of P5 or P5R, I think it is required playing for any big fan of Persona 5. I think that it is worth, the story they tell with the characters is absolutely worth experiencing if you are a big Persona 5 fan.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff, I think, especially related to the Phantom Thieves. Again, I think my like biggest criticism story-wise is just sort of like some of the new character stuff you get is so concentrated in like a 10-minute chunk of their character arcs. But yeah, what you get of them themselves, it's really nice to see them more together, to see how they've grown, to learn about them.
But Sophia and Zenkichi are so good.
They're really great. I did really enjoy them by the end of the game, and I'm glad that they got more of an arc than I thought they would kind of at the beginning. So I was glad to see that. I think what's really funny, though, is it did, I think I said this maybe to you last week, maybe off air, it's really made me want to go back and replay Persona 5 Royal, which I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to find the time at any point soon, but it made me, I think, reaffirm how much I love that game, and even if this doesn't reach that, I like just reaffirmed how much I love that group, that world, those ideas. And I'm really glad we went through it. I'm it's so funny to be here and be like, I don't know what happens next, because probably Persona 5 has gotten the most focus of it seems like a group of Persona characters.
Well, Persona 4 had a million billion spin-offs.
It did. I just mean in terms of, like, they've been the center of attention for so long because we don't know what the follow-up is at this point. Like,
sure.
At this point, I think in the time gap between Persona 4 and 5, like, Persona 6 should technically have been announced by now. Obviously, not saying it should.
Oh, I see. Like, if you were just, like, kind of, like...
Yeah, like, the Phantom Thieves, I think, remain... And because it's... I think not... Whether or not it's your favorite, like if you're a wider Persona series fan, I think it's hard to argue that this is clearly the most popular Persona has been.
Yes, and so it is a wider appeal than any Persona game previously.
Yeah, and so the Phantom Thieves, I think, stick out so much as this very big sort of synonymous group to me with Persona. Obviously, my introduction to Persona, so I'm excited to see more of the universe, and I want to dip back into other things. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to be here and kind of be like, but do we get a Persona 5-3 at this point?
Right. I would love to see more of the Phantom Thieves. I don't know where their story would go from here.
Yeah.
But
it does feel like they've grown, they've developed, they've certainly saved the world from multiple false gods. They're in a good place. But glad we went through it. Definitely please in the comments and write in. Let us know what you thought of Strikers overall, either compared to 5, just on its own, what you hope to see in the future if you got more Phantom Thieves. But yeah, that's our run through Persona 5 Strikers.
Yeah.
We did it.
I do have a quiz question.
I was going to say
things off.
You have a quiz question that, as far as we know, we don't know when we'll give you the answer to.
No, I'll give it today.
Oh, okay. I like the idea that you don't give it until we maybe do an episode in the future.
No. Okay. I'm not gonna leave people
That's
hanging.
fair.
You can answer it, and then I'll tell the real one.
Okay.
As you said at the very end of the game, at the very beginning of the cutscene for the credits, Sophia and Ichinose are walking away, and you check your phone, and you get an email that has a sweet picture of all your friends together. What is the subject line of that email?
I almost said it.
I could tell, that's why I cut you off.
Treasure.
Yeah.
Which is cute. It's very sweet.
Treasure with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Because you're her friends, and you're her treasure.
It's very sweet.
It's super cute.
I enjoy it.
I thought that would be a feel-good quiz to cap it off.
It's a good one. And also doesn't drive me mad where it's like, let me tell you, I was writing down the names of all the orbs because I thought you were going to be like, tell me 6 of the 12 orbs.
I almost did the orbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Cursed and Mithril and not their names.
Please link each of the 10 abilities that I am about to list with each of the 10 names of the orbs.
Hey, you know what? Bonus points. Do that, and if and when we do a new season, that can be. We'll give credit to anyone who gets it right.
Yeah.
But that's gonna, I think, pretty much wrap us up for the end of Persona 5 Strikers. Yeah. Tom, thank you once again for joining me on this journey.
It was an absolute pleasure as usual.
It's been wonderful to do. It is incredible to think, when did we start? It's now been almost 2 years, I guess, since we started the show in general. Take your time.
Yeah, about a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
Because April, about a year and a half.
And
almost 2.
You know, we, as we've said before, like, we started it as an excuse to talk about a game we both had loved but played at different times and never got to talk to as friends and people who loved it, and it was an excuse to do that. And we never imagined how many people out there would come along for the ride for us. We genuinely, like, it means so much to us how many people, we can see how many people, and it's ridiculous, are out there listening to us talk about this now 2 games over a year and a half. So thank you to everyone who's been out there, who's found the show later on, who's jumped into the Persona world, especially as the games have come to other platforms. We hope you have enjoyed this ride through Strikers. And again, don't know what the future will hold. Stay tuned to us to stay updated on if and when anything else happens. I'm at JM Dornbush. He's at Tom R. Marks. Across any platforms, dornology@gmail.com or youtube.com/dornology if you want to reach us, or wonderful other Take Your Time fans there. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this week's episode and this finale. So thank you all,
Hooray!
so much, and as always, nice to steal you.
Goodbye!